Ever squeeze honey onto your morning toast and wonder what it went through to get there? As a car guy, I never made the connection until I toured a honey factory last year. Standing between massive steel vats, I had deja vu. The machinery processing that golden sweetness was practically identical to equipment I'd seen purifying motor oil at production facilities. The way honey is heated, filtered, and stabilized mirrors the exact processes used for your car's most expensive fluids. By the end of today's video, you'll discover how understanding these manufacturing similarities will save you money and help you spot which premium car products aren't worth the cash. You've seen those golden honey bears at the grocery store, but do you know what's actually inside them? The answer might surprise you. Those cute little plastic containers hold what many companies market as pure and all-natural honey. But if you've ever wondered whether factory honey is the real deal or just fancy sugar water, you're not alone. Most of us have this idyllic image of honey production: happy bees buzzing around colorful flowers, and beekeepers gently collecting honeycombs. However, the reality of commercial honey production is vastly different, creating a substantial gap between consumer perception and industrial practices. This disconnect mirrors what I hear from drivers who insist conventional motor oil can't match synthetic options. In both cases, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about production methods. Food companies rarely reveal their actual production processes, creating a knowledge vacuum that gets filled with myths and marketing claims. When's the last time you saw a honey commercial showing industrial filtration systems or massive processing facilities? Probably never, because manufacturers prefer to maintain the pastoral illusion that supports their marketing narrative. Take a closer look at honey labels next time you're shopping. You'll notice phrases like all natural, pure, and raw prominently displayed, terminology that serves the same purpose as premium and advanced formula labels on automotive fluids. Both industries use this language to justify higher price points and create perceived value differences between essentially similar products. These marketing tactics succeed largely because technical knowledge among consumers is limited. One common misconception is that factory honey is nothing more than corn syrup with flavoring agents. This mirrors the belief many drivers have that budget motor oils are just basic petroleum without real benefits. The contrast between marketing imagery and industrial reality only deepens this confusion. While honey labels show idyllic scenes of nature, commercial honey production involves temperature-controlled pipelines, filtration systems, and quality control laboratories. We see this same problem with automotive fluids. The disconnect between marketing images, pristine laboratories with scientists in white coats, versus the actual production methods creates confusion about what you're really paying for with premium options. Here's the truth: factory honey is real honey. It starts as the same substance that bees produce in their hives. However, it undergoes processing similar to how base oils become finished automotive products. The raw material gets refined, filtered, and standardized to create a consistent product that meets consumer expectations for appearance and shelf stability. The honey in those squeeze bears has been processed to ensure it stays liquid, maintains a consistent color, and won't crystallize on store shelves. This processing removes some elements found in raw honey, like pollen, bee parts, and wax, just as oil refining removes certain natural components to achieve specific performance characteristics. Does this processing make factory honey fake? Not at all. It's still fundamentally honey, just as conventional motor oil is still fundamentally oil, but understanding what happens during production helps explain why that grocery store honey might taste and behave differently than what comes directly from a local beekeeper's hive. The moment honey leaves the hive, it enters a world of industrial processing that honey marketers deliberately keep off their packaging. When you see what actually happens between the beehive and your kitchen cabinet, you'll understand why mass-produced honey flows so differently than what beekeepers sell at farmers markets. Let's follow the journey of honey from hive to bottle. When beekeepers collect honey frames from hives, they're beginning a process that resembles petroleum refining. The raw honey isn't the pristine golden liquid you might imagine. It's a variable natural product loaded with inconsistencies that factories need to standardize. Here's how commercial honey processing breaks down. Commercial beekeepers first uncap the honeycomb frames using automated machines that slice away the wax caps. Then comes extraction. Large-scale operations use massive centrifugal extractors that spin dozens of frames simultaneously at high speeds, flinging honey against the walls where it drips down to collection troughs below. That extracted honey contains chunks of wax, bee parts, pollen granules, animals, and occasional larvae, all natural but unacceptable to consumers. While small producers simply strain through cloth filters, industrial operations employ sophisticated techniques that would make your jaw drop if you saw them. Next, the honey moves to settling tanks, where carefully controlled temperatures allow heavier particles to sink, while lighter wax and air bubbles rise to form a scum layer for removal. These aren't quaint farm containers, they're massive industrial tanks holding thousands of gallons. To transport this viscous product through the facility, heated pipeline systems maintain honey at precisely 104 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, the ideal pumping temperature that prevents damage to heat-sensitive compounds. This temperature control mirrors techniques used in petroleum processing, where temperature regulation is equally critical. The pressure filtration systems that follow would look at home in an oil facility. Honey passes through progressively finer filters under significant pressure, from coarse screens catching large debris to incredibly fine filters trapping microscopic particles. Many operations use diatomaceous earth filtration, the same medium used in petroleum processing. Temperature management becomes critically important during filtration. Too cold and the honey becomes too thick to process efficiently. Too hot, especially above 118 degrees Fahrenheit, and beneficial enzymes break down, diminishing both flavor and the natural antimicrobial properties that make honey special. This delicate balance mirrors the temperature control challenges in automotive fluid processing. What consumers rarely realize is how many heating cycles commercial honey undergoes. Each transfer between tanks, through pipelines, or into bottling requires heating. This repeated heating, while keeping temperatures below critical damage thresholds, gradually alters the honey's composition and properties. The final step many large producers employ is pasteurization. Heating honey to 161 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 seconds kills yeast cells that might cause fermentation. This process, while extending shelf life dramatically, further distances honey from its raw state, prioritizing stability over preserving original characteristics. By the time you see that honey bear on the store shelf, it's been through multiple heating cycles, intense filtration, pasteurization, and standardization. The result is visually appealing, consistently colored, shelf-stable, and fundamentally transformed from what came out of the hive. That pristine golden liquid in your bear-shaped bottle has more in common with what's pumping through your engine than you could possibly imagine. Both honey producers and motor oil manufacturers face an identical challenge, taking a naturally variable raw material and turning it into something perfectly consistent that consumers will recognize and trust. And they solve this problem with surprisingly identical technology. Imagine a microscopic maze where only the purest liquid can pass. This filtration process applies equally to your honey and that high-performance oil in your engine. Commercial honey processors use diatomaceous earth filtration, the exact same material used to filter premium automotive fluids. These white, powdery filters made from fossilized algae create pathways that trap particles while allowing the desired liquid to flow through. In both honey factories and oil refineries, massive pressure systems force their respective liquids through filters that capture particles down to the micron level. Filtration so fine it removes particles smaller than a red blood cell. The equipment is practically identical: large metal chambers packed with filter media, pressure gauges, and temperature controls that could be swapped between facilities with minimal modifications. Temperature control during filtration connects these industries in another critical way. Honey must be kept warm enough to flow smoothly, but cool enough to preserve its beneficial enzymes. Automotive fluids require the same precise temperature management. Too cold and filtration becomes inefficient, too hot and valuable performance compounds break down. Most consumers don't realize that ultrafiltration techniques used in commercial honey production evolved directly from industrial petroleum processing. The honey industry adopted these methods because they effectively create the crystal clear product consumers expect. Clarity comes at a cost, though. Ultrafiltration removes virtually all pollen from honey, the component responsible for its regional characteristics and many health benefits. This mirrors full synthetic oil production, where natural variability is eliminated to create a perfectly engineered product. The result looks better and performs predictably, but loses beneficial properties of less processed alternatives. Honey producers balance filtration levels against consumer expectations, walking a tightrope that oil manufacturers know all too well. Remove too little and the honey might crystallize on store shelves, a natural process many customers incorrectly view as spoilage. Filter too aggressively and you're removing the compounds that distinguish honey from simple sugar syrup, similar to how overprocessed motor oil can lose natural lubricating properties. For both industries, filtration levels directly correlate with price. Heavily filtered honey commands premium prices because of its perfect appearance and extended shelf stability. Similarly, aggressively filtered synthetic oils come with premium price tags justified by their consistent performance. The industry secret: the most expensive option isn't necessarily best for your specific needs. What makes this filtration connection even more striking is that some honey producers purchase filtration equipment from manufacturers who primarily serve the petroleum industry. The specialized pumps, filter housings, and pressure systems often come from the same factories with different branding on the control panels. Ultrafiltration has become so prevalent in commercial honey that it creates regulatory challenges. Some countries no longer consider ultrafiltered honey to be honey at all, since the process removes the pollen that identifies its floral source. This parallels debates in the automotive world about whether full synthetics deserve their premium pricing when cheaper options might perform just as well for most drivers. If regulatory debates around filtration make you question what you're paying for, wait until you see behind the curtain of quality testing. The honey industry and automotive fluid manufacturers share filtration technology and use identical testing equipment to justify those premium price tags that might be emptying your wallet for no good reason. Ever wonder how they determine that expensive honey is premium quality or that synthetic oil is superior performance? The answer lies in testing labs where the equipment doesn't care if it's measuring food or automotive fluids. It's almost as if your favorite snack and your engine oil were evaluated on the same lab table, with machines that can be recalibrated overnight to switch between testing honey and brake fluid. Take viscosity testing, a critical measurement that affects how your engine oil performs in extreme temperatures. Both honey producers and oil manufacturers use rotational viscometers with spinning metal cylinders to measure how liquids resist flow. The machine measures torque as the spindle rotates through the sample, determining whether you'll see grade A on honey jars or SAE5W30 on oil containers. This matters for your car because the wrong viscosity could mean poor engine protection in cold starts or hot summer driving. Color analysis equipment shows this overlap perfectly too. The spectrophotometers that grade honey from water white to dark amber are technologically identical to ones checking for contamination in your transmission fluid. Understanding this helps explain why sometimes the most expensive fluid isn't necessarily better. It might just hit a different point on the same measurement scale as the mid-grade option. Even moisture content testing crosses industries seamlessly. Carl Fisher titration equipment measures water content down to parts per million, determining whether honey will ferment or crystallize and whether your brake fluid will maintain proper function under pressure. For your vehicle, this means the difference between reliable stops and potential brake failure. The industry similarities extend to stability testing in environmental chambers that rapidly cycle between temperature extremes. These chambers simulate months or years of shelf life in just days. The honey sitting in your pantry and the oil in your crankcase were qualified using nearly identical protocols and similar testing equipment. Perhaps most eye-opening is that many producers don't even maintain their own testing facilities. Third-party analytical laboratories serve multiple industries, often testing food products one day and industrial lubricants the next. The same lab technician might analyze honey samples in the morning and transmission fluid in the afternoon, using the same equipment with only minor recalibration. These shared quality control methods create an interesting paradox for consumers. The testing establishes minimum quality standards that all products must meet. Once those standards are achieved, additional processing or premium ingredients often deliver diminishing returns in actual performance. The most expensive honey doesn't necessarily contain more beneficial compounds, just as the priciest motor oil won't necessarily extend engine life under normal driving conditions. Next time you're comparing products, ask yourself what measurable differences justify the price gap. Is it actual performance characteristics validated by testing, or clever marketing designed to exploit your desire for the best? Understanding these standardized testing methods empowers you to make decisions based on your specific needs, rather than falling for premium pricing strategies that might not deliver real-world benefits for your vehicle. That perfect squeeze of honey from your plastic bear bottle wouldn't be possible without chemistry that mirrors what's happening inside your transmission. While marketing departments push narratives about pure and natural products, the reality involves sophisticated chemical engineering that few consumers ever glimpse. Behind those identical golden streams of honey lies a world of molecular manipulation that would make any petroleum engineer feel right at home. I remember visiting a commercial honey processing plant last year. The lab technician handed me 2 samples, one labeled raw and another processed. When I asked about the difference, he accidentally knocked over a beaker of glucose oxidase. That enzyme right there, he pointed while wiping up the spill, transforms your honey's consistency completely. Commercial producers use these enzymes to convert glucose into gluconic acid and hydrogen peroxide, a process remarkably similar to how transmission fluids maintain their performance across temperature ranges. Every perfect ribbon of honey from that bear bottle results from these carefully calibrated chemical properties. The battle against crystallization shows how science shapes our food experiences. Honey naturally crystallizes. It's actually the stable state for this supersaturated sugar solution. Manufacturers introduce precise amounts of dextrose seed crystals, creating intentional microcrystallization that remains invisible while preventing the larger crystals consumers reject. Just as a chef balances flavors in a recipe, manufacturers apply this same principle to your motor oil, using pour-point depressants that prevent waxes from solidifying in cold weather. Commercial honey's shelf stability comes from chemical defoamers like silicon dioxide, compounds nearly identical to anti-foaming agents in brake fluid. These prevent yeast activity by disrupting surface tension needed for fermentation bubbles. These same properties keep your brake pedal firm by preventing vapor lock in the hydraulic system. Many honey varieties undergo hydrogenation to prevent crystallization, restructuring molecular bonds for indefinite shelf stability. This mirrors how base oils become synthetic lubricants through hydrocracking and hydroisomerization processes. Both create products with altered molecular structures designed for specific performance characteristics. The precise pH engineering in honey production parallels transmission fluid technology. Natural honey varies between 3.4 and 6.1 pH, creating inconsistent flavors. Producers add controlled amounts of citric or malic acid to standardize acidity, exactly how additive packages in transmission fluids maintain consistent friction coefficients. Both industries understand that chemical balancing creates predictable performance. Commercial honey undergoes radical moisture control through chemical desiccants that permanently bind water molecules. These same hygroscopic compounds appear in power steering fluid to prevent corrosion and maintain viscosity regardless of humidity. That never spoils claim relies on molecular interventions that permanently alter water activity levels. Even honey's signature color receives chemical attention through activated carbon filtration, identical technology used in premium motor oils to remove unstable compounds. Both products emerge looking cleaner, though with certain natural elements permanently removed. The smooth texture consumers expect comes from chemical surfactants that reduce surface tension between sugar molecules. These create the silky mouthfeel we've come to expect and are molecularly similar to friction modifiers in transmission fluid that ensure smooth gear engagement. Both products deliver their premium feel through engineered molecular interactions rather than natural properties. So there you have it. That golden honey squeeze from your cute little bear bottle shares a surprising industrial heritage with the fluids keeping your car running. Both begin as variable natural substances before being transformed through sophisticated engineering. The next time you're facing rows of honey varieties or automotive fluids with different price points, remember what you've learned today. Companies count on your ignorance about production processes to justify premium prices. What matters is understanding what you actually need. Just like I mentioned at the beginning, knowledge is your superpower against marketing tactics. Share in the comments how understanding these processes has saved you money. The sweet victory comes from making informed choices based on facts rather than fear.